10 minutes. We've got to hit the Guardians. So let's go there now. They have an afternoon game today, a very big afternoon game today.
Yeah.
Let
me speak to the fans for a minute.
Go ahead, please, because I know what you're going to say, and I co-sign it.
Yeah. Let me tell you something. The fans of this town, if you don't get behind, I'm not talking about even going to games, because whatever, like when we talk about attendance, you know, there's a lot more people in New York and Chicago.
Ratings are good, though, Bull. Ratings are good.
But just ratings are good. That's fine.
So
but we need
they
better.
care.
Like, people need to pay more attention to this team. I would like to see bigger crowds. I don't like to spend people's money, so I hate to kill people for not going to games. But everybody should be paying attention to this team. They've been one of the most successful franchises. I get the frustration. You know, save the frustration of ownership for the offseason. I'll be there to kill the owner in the offseason, just like everybody else. But this team is, remember the week before we went on the air, guys, we asked a question in our practice show, and you guys will remember this. Will the Guardians be in the mix in September?
Yeah.
And I said I thought they would be, but even I think I was the only one who said I thought they would be.
I didn't think they'd play meaningful baseball games in September.
Bolt was the only one, and he said it'd be for a second wild card spot.
Right.
Thought they'd
but
be in this
I
position.
certainly did not think this. They got a shot to win 90 games. If they play one game over 500 the rest of the way, they'll win 87. Okay? This team's going to win close to 90 games. This team had no business winning 90 games. But they have great leadership with the front office. They have great leadership with the manager. And almost more importantly, they have great leadership with their best player. Jose Ramirez is a perfect example. We talk about Nick Chubb all the time. What a perfect example he is. And he is. And Jose Ramirez is a perfect example in baseball. He took less money. He hustles his ass off.
Plays hard.
He runs the bases great. There's no flaw in his game. By all accounts, he's a great guy, great leader in the locker room. And all these young players play hard and hustle because they learn from him and they learn from Francona. And that deserves your respect. Even if you're not a huge baseball fan, you got to, at minimum, be checking the scores and paying attention. It's absurd that if we talk about the Guardians, some people just shut off the show. That's ridiculous. They deserve your respect and your attention, if nothing else, because they're playing great baseball, and they're an impossible team. If you give them a chance, this is an impossible team not to root for and not to like. There's nothing not to like about this team.
I didn't want to derail the conversation when we opened the show. We're talking about Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani and MVP. Listen, I can give you a really strong argument of why Jose Ramirez is the MVP of the American League. If you want to put it by the letter of the definition, most valuable player.
The player that means the most to his team.
Take Jose off the Guardians.
Oh,
where
my
is
God.
this team?
Oh, nowhere.
Take Aaron Judge off the Yankees. They still have Garrett Cole.
Yeah.
You know, they're still an all-star team. And
I had a guy arguing with me yesterday that the Yankees would not be a playoff team without Aaron
he's
Judge.
an idiot.
That's insane.
Don't argue.
That's
don't
absolutely
argue with
absurd.
barn animals on Twitter. But and Shohei Ohtani, you know, if you want to have the valuable argument, well, the Angels
they have
already
Trout.
went out. Yeah, exactly. But for what Jose means to this team, if you want to go by most valuable player, Jose Ramirez is the MVP of the American League. I know he's not
wouldn't
going to
vote
win
for him, but
I know
I
he's
get
not
what
gonna
you say.
win it.
I understand why you wouldn't, because you got one guy having an historic year and another guy is having an historic year at two positions.
Right.
However, I've always used that definition, value. If it was the most outstanding player, then you've got an argument for the other two, and it'd be hard to make a case for Jose. But the player who brings the most value to his team is unquestionably
I don't
Jose
know
Ramirez.
if it's unquestionably compared to Judge.
What would they be
I think it's
without
hard,
him?
I think it's hard to quantify that, and so ultimately I vote for I think it's an individual award, and I don't think you can hold, just like you shouldn't hold the fact that Ohtani's team stinks against him. I don't think it's fair to hold
no, but it's not outstanding player. It's valuable.
The Yankees are still a playoff team.
They're still a playoff team.
But they're not a division winner.
Who cares? They're a playoff team. The Guardians without Jose Ramirez have 65 wins right now.
Speaking of playoffs,
come on now.
They're under 500.
Listen, I'm telling you, they're going to be under 500.
Speaking of playoffs, if you ask what does it take for people to get behind and how it's going to happen, they got to at least win they got to win the first series.
But it shouldn't be that.
No, you know what?
You gotta show
The Browns haven't
Can I
been
ask a question?
squat.
But you
People
gotta
watch
show
no matter
them.
what.
Gotta
Maurice
show
wants to chime in.
Go ahead, Maurice.
Maurice, go ahead.
He froze again. No, G. Bush, to your point, in the macro, you're right. In the macro, you got to win the World Series. However,
I mean one series.
Oh, okay. I thought you
They
said
haven't
World
won
Series.
a playoff game
If they
since
win,
Game 5 of the
I know
Game
that.
4 of the World Series.
I know they haven't.
Yeah.
But if
I'm sorry, no. The year after that, they won their first two games.
and then lost.
And then they haven't won since. My bad.
If you win a series,
Yes.
this town will be 100% in.
They'll be on it.
Maurice is back.
I think what they have is what the Braves had in the mid-90s.
There's some apathy.
They have lack of winning a World Series fatigue.
Yes.
The Braves, if you remember, in the mid-90s were winning the division that wasn't even close. They were winning it every year. But then the playoffs would come around and they weren't even selling out the stadium.
Right.
And the reason they weren't selling it out was because they never got over the hump.
Right.
Then
And
in
they may not.
'95, they did get over that hump.
It's going to be tough for the Guardians to win in the playoffs. It's going to be tough.
The first series?
I like their chances, Bull. I like their rotation.
I would never
let's let
count
Maurice
them out,
chime in.
but it is going to be tough. Go ahead, Maurice.
Yeah, and I'm just talking from living in Columbus. I had two, like a question and kind of like a statement. And one, does the Guardians get drowned out because you have the Browns and the Cavalier conversation like so loud amongst the local fan base?
Sure.
That was my first question. Then the second one was like, do they do any marketing, right? So I don't know why, but when they changed from the Indians to the Guardians, I don't know why I lost interest. I don't know, and I don't know if that's a popular thing to say, but I don't know why it just didn't click in my head.
You're not alone.
You're not alone, Maurice. Yeah, you're not.
Yeah.
But that's just, I mean, I get it. I get some people feel that way. To me, I don't think you're saying that because you're offended by the name change. But
No.
I mean, it's just, to me, it's just silly.
I had this conversation with one of our producers in the newsroom yesterday, and he thinks it's silly too. But I said it may be silly, but it's a fact.
Fair, I think you're a bad fan if you stop rooting for a team because they changed their name.
Mark, it's like this. Have you ever watched a show? You watched a television show, sitcom, whatever it is, you loved it to death. They killed one of the characters off, and you just said, I can't do it no more.
But they didn't kill the character. They just changed it.
No, but
they
they
changed
did.
the name.
That's
drastic.
That's the character of the Guardians. When you talk about it, when you say the character, like the logo, the name, that was in Major League was a huge part. When
I hear you, but to me it's pointless at this point. We've all debated this and talked about it. It's done.
I know,
you
but
want
you
to sit and
can't
cry about it, and you're better than do that. You're a bad fan. I'm sorry.
To Maurice's point, and this is the exact debate I had yesterday in the newsroom with one of our producers. You can say that you're a bad fan and you should still care, but the fact is, and I know it's a fact because I've talked to many of them. And last year they told me,
so they're
I'm
never
done.
going to watch a game ever?
I don't know. But I know they're not going this year like they did last year.
Why are we even considering
because
those people?
you need those people.
We need them.
So part of my second part of what I was going to say is this more of a responsibility of the marketing department to bring more people in the stadium where you have free games, you have discounted seats, or you have the players inside the community, or just some sort of engagement to bring a new era of fans in. So G actually said something right. I fell in love with the Indians when you seen Major League, and I felt like the Kenny Lofton era, that whole deal when I was a kid. I just remember that. And then can you recapture that moment for just a younger generation? And baseball isn't that interesting towards a lot of people because you don't see it on TV all the time. It's like the stopgap between when basketball season is done and then when football season starts, and you'll watch it if it's the World Series are interesting, but maybe just from a local standpoint to generate interest, do you have like that marketing piece to connect to the local community to revive people? I don't know.
I mean, it is a good value, ticket-wise.
It's a value, but to his point, I know that everybody says, well, discount the tickets. You can't, because if you discount the tickets, the people that are paying high dollar for those tickets aren't going to pay for those tickets. They'll just sit somewhere else for a discount. It's a really tough spot.
But it is a good value compared to the other teams and compared to most baseball
teams.
But
when you add in the parking, the concessions, and everything else,
absurd.
The parking is absurd.
Crazy,
and it is what it is, and it's gouging. So the spot that I would pay $4 for on a normal day is $30 when there's a Guardians game. It's a barrier to entry for a lot of fans, and they're not going to do it.
And we don't have public
mass transit
like
that drops you off there.
Yeah, right.
So to your point on the marketing, the one thing I will say that I've heard over and over and over again from former season ticket holders for over a decade, and they didn't renew, and I'm having conversations with these people, and I'm asking questions, trying to figure out, well, what's in this person's mind. The one thing I've heard over and over and over and over again is the fact that the core fan base for any sports team is its season ticket base. They were never talked to. They were never consulted. They were never asked what their opinion was. There was never a town hall. What do you guys want to do?
But the reality, Jay, is that the people that are not watching or going to games because of the name change, we're not going to go no matter what they change the name to because they don't care about.
You're right. You're right.
They don't care what the name was.
No, here's what I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
What I've heard overwhelmingly, and Jason, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm sure you've talked to these people too. What I've heard overwhelmingly is it's not because it's the Guardians, it's because it's not the Indians.
Yeah.
That's what I've heard.
Right. So it wouldn't matter who they. I'm
not talking about what should we name the team.
Yeah.
I'm talking about that's the cart before the horse. The real question is, do we change the name?
Right.
And the Braves and the Chiefs listened to their fan base, who spoke loudly and clearly, don't do this.
Okay.
And they both made the right decision, in my view. They didn't change
I don't agree, but
I know you don't, but it is reality.
People
Jason has a final take that we need to give the full amount of time to. So
Okay, wonderful.
I want to get my stuff in that I have to get in real quick.
Okay.
Jason, you can take it away, and we can see what happens after.
Great.
Joe Thomas is getting inducted into the Browns Ring of Honor this weekend,
Wonderful.
which means DeQuell Jackson's
Alongside
in town.
Cade York.
And Cade York. But that means DeQuell Jackson's in town for that as a fellow Browns Ring of Honoree, meaning DeQuell Jackson on the set tomorrow.
Whoa.
And I got
Wonderful.
a game for y'all. Jason, I kind of told you about it. Don't give it away. Might be my best idea yet.
Wait, Jason gets to know about it and we don't? Oh, he's
He's
not
not here
here
tomorrow, so
Okay.
we can't play.
Will we like it, Jason?
Yes.
Okay, good.
It's good. And we're going to play with DeQuell, and we're going to laugh at Anthony at the end because you'll see
He'll
why.
misspell
amazing.
things.
It's great.
It's amazing. Anthony will never be an English teacher or a
No
copy
chance.
editor.
Yeah, I know.
But we'll laugh at that.